You're watching Truth Talk News.
Uncle Ben the Bankster's at it again. Ben Bernanke, chairman of the Federal Reserve, said the economy is far from operating at full strength and is committed to more record quantitative easing. In other words, more devaluing of our currency. Quote unquote, with unemployment at almost 8%, we are still far from the fully healthy and vibrant conditions that we would like to see, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben the Bankster Bernanke. While the U.S. Central Bank has faced criticism, of course, now from foreign banks and officials and countries, including the Brazilian Finance Minister Guido Mantega, who in October stated that these quantitative easings has weakened the dollar, which is absolutely true, threatening to fuel a currency war of competitive devaluations. And we have this. This is what's going on. This is the devaluation. This is what we should call, and this segment should be called the economic meltdown in progress as we move further into this devaluing of our currency, continuing to deindustrialize America, bringing in this colossal collapse that's inevitable. I mean, we all have to just be prepared for it, because financially speaking, how can they get this without wiping away these debts? There's no way out of this. Without wiping away and stimulating the economy in the right way, can we get out of this? But they're not stimulating it in the right way. In fact, it's just the opposite. That's what's going on here. Everything that's being done is being done to deindustrialize, to weaken the economy, to devalue the dollar, while they state that they're helping it. A child could notice this if they just pay attention to what's happened since this Federal Reserve crime syndicate has taken over control of the United States money supply. Okay. The Federal Reserve under Bernanke has expanded assets to a record exceeding $3 trillion and pushed down the benchmark interest rate close to zero. So what, is this going to stimulate growth? It doesn't seem to have done it, even though rates are near zero. Slowly, people have been hacked. They hacked away all the wealth and destroyed people's lives. How can the economy thrive if there's, 20 million people out of work and 40 million people on welfare and a total of 70 million people taking some type of government assistance? How do you have a thriving economy when this is going on? And 8% unemployment. Meanwhile, everyone's praising Obama. He's the great man. He's great. It is. It's like Obama mania. I saw a post Roger Landry put it. It's absolutely true. Obama mania. It's like a medical condition that's treated by, it's treatable and covered by Obamacare for people that just continually, no matter how much they're being hurt, they embrace their leader. It's crazy. It's like a twisted version of Stockholm syndrome, being destroyed, deindustrialized. But praise him. He's wonderful. He's great no matter what happens. It doesn't matter if the economy goes in the toilet. It doesn't matter if we put all these unconstitutional laws and make wars at the United Nations behest. That doesn't matter. Indefinitely detains American citizens, shoot drones, kill people. It's all good. It's all for freedom. Liberty. Anyway, so Ben the Bankster is at it. That was an article, the information source was from Bloomberg, but of course I put my spin on that, Bloomberg.com. And this is an article from CNBC written by Jeff Cox, so I couldn't agree with this more. The U.S. dollar is shrinking as a percentage of the world's currency supply, raising concerns that the greenback is about to see its long run as world premier domination come to an end. Of course, they want to bring in the new world currency. There will be a one world government, a one world currency, one world religion. I mean, a lot of this stuff is hard for folks to believe, especially the religion thing. What are you talking about? Well, they've been hacking and attacking religions and putting religions and peoples and ideologies against each other, fighting off each other for hundreds of years. This is part of their goal, is to bring in a Gaia religion. And it's working, this whole New Age thing, people that love the land and the earth and the sea and listen to this really tranquil type music and, all of this earthy stuff and, do what's good for you. It's all Luciferian. Anyway, make this a long story short, the American economy still does reign supreme. It constitutes 3.72 trillion, or 62% of the 6 trillion in allocated foreign exchange holdings by the World Central Bank. The Japanese yen, Swiss franc, and what the IMF classifies as other currencies, such as the yen, are now gaining, though. And the Federal Reserve is not helping the matter. Why don't we take care of ourselves before we continue to try to save the world at the behest of the international banking cartel? Who have mind-controlled Americans to believe that we must protect the world and keep the world safe for democracy, as they kill and destroy and torment people's lives like you cannot imagine, unless you were part of it. How would you feel if we had military bases all around the surrounding areas of the United States? How would that make you feel to have foreign governments and foreign soldiers at our borders and having this type of a thing? It's very disconcerting. And we cause most of the problems by our just being there. We can close most of these bases, keep a constitutional republic, have a navy that can be in any of these particular areas that are considered dangerous or hotspots or whatever. This is what we need to do. We're spending trillions of dollars that we don't have. And then Pelosi has the audacity to say that congressional pay cuts undermine the dignity of the job, as we destroy the dignity of people with drone attacks killing children, with Hegelian wars for ExxonMobil, Halliburton, and all these other criminal corporations, and the bankers who fund it all, the military-industrial complex. We have to have a strong defense. Shouldn't we be moving away from this whole concept of making bombs and missiles and planes? And they talk about gun control. What about war control? What about the fact that we have I live in Connecticut, a military-industrial complex state. I'm sorry that there are these thousands of workers that are dependent upon making war, but do you think that that's a good thing? Isn't there a better way to retrofit your production to be for peaceful things instead of making war? It's unbelievable. We have to continue to produce planes and tanks and drones that look like little kids' toys that could spy on the people and keep selling all these different technologies to local police, and bringing into this police state in America. Is this what we need? Is this what we want? Gun control? Well, they say take away the assault rifles from the people that can protect themselves. From the purpose of the Second Amendment is to against a rising tyrannical government, and I can't tell you that anything less than this is what's happening in our country, whether you're aware of it or not. Again, a child could see this. We talk about freedom and liberty while we take it away from people. Okay, so Pelosi thinks it's undermines the dignity of the job to get a pay cut. That's absolutely hard to believe, but it's true. Incredible. Well, again, she's an elitist, and let's talk about these elitists. And we know now that the banking collapses or all the depressions, everything were all planned, and all the insiders knew. They got out of the market before the Great Depression, and they all bought up everything and pennies on the dollar, and they've been doing this over and over again. It's nothing new. This is how they operate, and they get everyone to believe that, it was just the market. We didn't know. There was no way to know. Just like the same thing with the collusion between the banks and the insurance companies in various different things. The insurance companies with the churning of the insurance policies to make billions, raping the policies in the 90s. They all did it. Then they got caught, and they paid a fine, and we don't do it anymore. But these regulatory agencies are all just as corrupt. All the small banks are put into into the line of fire, and all the big banks, are just left alone. They target. They do their job. They regulate, but they don't regulate the real. With great reluctance, they have to make up stories. This is really crazy. An investment bank having a sell rating on a stock. Well, it's very unheard of, but of course what we're having here is Goldman Sachs was giving a sell rating on Heinz, and it again to reduce the costs, and then Berkshire Hathaway's sucked it up and bought the company. And on that particular deal, John Kerry made about $700,000. He's our new Secretary of State, interestingly enough. So it looks like he made a ton of money on this deal. And he is saying that we have to continue to spend money in certain areas because certain cuts that are going to come into place regarding these sequestration cuts, beginning of March. These cuts are to all discretionary spending accounts go into effect. Well, this is a good thing. We're spending way too much money. But again, it's a Hegelian thing. Listen to this. Kerry wrote in a letter to Senator Barbara Milkowski of Maryland on February 11th. Cuts of this magnitude would seriously impair our ability to execute our vital missions of national security, diplomacy, and development. That means, controlling our imperialist efforts to control these regions that with the CIA doing their covert stuff and backing, Al-Qaeda and all of that, so that they attack us and help to fund our own attacks. I mean, remember, Al-Qaeda was created by Zbigniew Brzezinski, and that was in 1979 on record, and the CIA as an opposition force to the Soviets. And they've ever since then, they've been doing this covert black operations, and this is where the money would be hurting from them taking away. So, of course, Skull and Boners, State Department, typically a lot of secretaries of war, secretaries of state have been Skull and Boners. And, of course, Kerry is a Skull and Boner. And he is now upset because these cuts would severely impair our efforts to enhance the security of the U.S. government's facilities overseas and ensure the safety of thousands of U.S. diplomats serving on the American people abroad. Well, no. I mean, that's obviously what you think it is, but these unspecified cuts to international peacekeeping operations, there we go. Now we're getting to the truth. Their peacekeeping means they're war making and they're funding the angry people so that they can rise up against and cause trouble, that we have to put our foot down. I mean, this is what's going on. It really is, and the elitists love it. They're funding it. Who's paying for all these weapons that they get? Who's getting the contracts? Where do the weapons come from? Look into these things. Peacekeeping operations, he even said it directly. Unspecified cuts to international peacekeeping operations, counter-narcotics programs, counter-terrorism efforts, in other words, moving the poppy from Afghanistan, and counter-terrorism, backing Al-Qaeda. And non-proliferation activities. Well, I tell you, we got a problem here. And the problem is that we are causing all of the discord. We must stop this. We just need to have a very realistic and constitutional way. If no foreign entanglements, we should have non-interventionalism is really what we should be executing here, and closing hundreds of bases that don't need to be there, get our militaries out of there, and it's not our business to protect these other countries. The United Nations is bringing in a world government to mind control Americans to believe that we are the greatest nation on the world and doing all of this. But meanwhile, I don't know about greatest. Our education, we're 16th in education worldwide. So how great can we really be? We're bankrupt. 70 million people are on welfare of some kind. Things are not as they seem. I'm Howard Nima. Thank you for watching Truth Talk News.
In earlier times, it was easier to control a million people than physically to kill a million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill a million people than to control a million people.